Attention!
Attention!
Here comes Mr. Geyser. He's older and he's wiser, reading Bible verses every day. Jesus wept! Jesus wept! Jesus wept! Here comes Mr. Geyser. He's older and he's wiser, read the Bible with him today. Jesus wept! Jesus wept! Jesus wept!
Right into our missionary story today. We have been learning about Brother Andrew, and we're going to keep that story going. This story is called God's Smuggler, and this week is when it gets really exciting.
Yeah.
Well, we left off with our last missionary story of where Brother Andrew had just finished up Bible college. He'd been preparing to go as a missionary, and he was wondering where God wanted him to go. What God wanted him to do, right?
Right. Yes, ma'am.
And he found something. He found a magazine, and that's what we're going to talk about this week.
A magazine?
Well,
a magazine?
How much ammo did it have?
A magazine, you know, one where you open it up and you flip through and you see the pictures. I know y'all couldn't read the text, but, you know, you see the pretty pictures. That's exactly what he found. He went downstairs into the college there where he was going to. He went downstairs to get his bag and stuff so he could pack up and get ready to go home. And when he went down into the basement there, he found a magazine. And he was like, hey, what's this? So he picked it up and he started flipping through it and looking at it. And it was a really nice magazine, had all kinds of color pictures. And it was talking about a trip that people were being invited to take. And they were being invited to go to Poland to see a big rally for a communist rally, and we're going to talk about what that is right now. Now, do you puppets know what communism is?
The sergeant's bitter enemy.
I like that answer.
Flag.
That's a good answer. Well, we're going to talk about it just a little bit. So during when communism really started taking a spike or being more well known was about around 1945, 1946. Right about the end of World War II, and communism would continue to be a problem. Even today, there's issues with it, but especially until about 1989 is when we saw the fall of what was often called the Iron Curtain. And if you don't know what the Iron Curtain is, it wasn't like an actual iron curtain. That's what I always pictured when I was young. But it wasn't like a curtain that hung up that was made of iron. It was just something that people referred to it as because it was like the border that separated countries that had communism away from countries that were not communists.
Did you know what communism gives me?
What does it give you?
Red flags.
Red flags? It gives a lot of red flags indeed, Sergeant. So, but let's stay focused here. Okay, so he found this magazine and it was inviting him to a communist rally in Poland. And so he decided that he was going to go. He didn't know why, but he just felt like the Lord would have him go. Later, when he asked around the college, no one knew where the magazine had come from. No one had left it there. No one remembered having it at any time. But Andrew knew that for some reason, God had had him find it. And so he prepared to go to Poland. And he did. He went to Poland, and when he got there, he was surprised to see how many young people had come to this rally. There were so many young people. In fact, the communists had to turn a school into a hotel, and they let people stay there that had come for the rally. He was put into a classroom that used to be a math classroom. He knew that by the stuff that was on the walls, but it had been a math classroom, and they had put bunk beds in that classroom for people to sleep in, and they used it like it was a hotel room. And there was like 30 bunk beds of people just all staying together in that one room. So that shows you how many people were there, because it was a big school, and all the hotels were filled up as well. The real hotels, not the schools, okay? All right, but let's keep going. So he was very curious. He was very intrigued, and they took him on tours of Poland, and they started showing him all these different things and talking about all this different stuff that was going on, and how the communism had helped the country, and it was rebuilding the country, and it was making everything better. But Andrew just had a feeling that he was only seeing one side of what was really happening. And so he got real curious, and he started walking around, and he'd get separated from the rest of the group because they had tours where they take people like on buses, and they go around and they see all the different sites and listen to the different speeches and stuff about how great communism was. But he wasn't quite buying it, and he decided he was going to do a little more investigating for himself. So one day he went and he got on a public bus, and he was riding on it, and he began to ask if anyone knew where there were any Christians in Poland, because he wanted to meet them. Now, he didn't speak the language of the Polish people, but he spoke English, he spoke Dutch, and he spoke German. So he said it in each of those languages. And when he got to German, many of the people in Poland speak German, and so everyone on the bus got real quiet when he started asking about Christians in Poland. And they all looked at him funny, and no one would talk to him. But as he was getting ready to get off the bus, a woman stood up, and she went to get off the bus, and she oddly bumped into him for no apparent reason. And then she leaned down real close to his ear, and she whispered, "Bible shop." And she slipped a piece of paper into his hand. Well, when he opened it up, he found there was an address of a Bible shop. And so he thought, wow, there's Bible shops in Poland? And he was very intrigued. So he went and he took the address, he went and he got a taxi, and he gave the address to the taxi driver, who drove him to this address. And when he got out, he saw that there was a sign in the window, and he didn't understand what the sign said, because like I said, he doesn't speak the language of the Polish people. But he wrote down the address very careful, and he wrote down what the card in the window said. He wrote it down real careful, and then he went back to the school where he was staying, and he asked around, and someone translated it, and it said that they were on vacation, and the Bible shop would open again in a week. And so he decided at the end of the week, that was around the end of when the tour was supposed to end, he was going to go back and find out what was happening. Well, when he went back and he asked the shop opened up, and he went in and he talked to the shopkeeper, and the shopkeeper seemed real nervous and was like real jumpy, and he was kind of like, what's going on, why are you here? And he could tell that the Bible shopkeeper just didn't feel comfortable with someone he didn't know there to buy a Bible. And they talked, and the man told him many stories about how much freedom they had and how much religious freedom they had. And he was surprised by this, so he asked more and more questions, and he found out that the man had actually been forced to set up a display in his shop of a man named Stalin. Now, if you don't know who Stalin is, he was the man that was in charge of Poland at that time. He was like the ruler at that time, okay? And it was for Stalin's birthday, and they made him put a picture of Stalin up in his front window of a Bible shop. And Andrew was really shocked by it, and he started to laugh, because at first he thought it was a joke. But no, it was true, and he was first to do that. And there's a lot more things that were happening like this at that time. As he continued to go around the town, he found that there were many people who were living in holes in the ground. Poland had been bombed very violently during World War II. And though by this time it was 1955, and people were just beginning to be allowed into these areas that were behind the Iron Curtain, it was 1955, 10 years after World War II had ended. Still, there was very little being done to rebuild Poland. And he found these people living in bombed out homes, in holes underground. He found people who couldn't read, who couldn't write. Many of them looked like they were starving, like they didn't have enough food, and this was heartbreaking to him. Well, Brother Andrew, he decided he was going to do the one thing he had truly come to Poland to do. He was going to pass out his gospel tracts. He brought a bunch of gospel tracts, and he went and he began to pass those gospel tracts out. He passed them on the street. He passed them in buses. He passed them in shops. He passed them everywhere he could think of. And he had just a few left, and he happened to see some soldiers, and that scared him. Now, these were communist soldiers, and he didn't know if he'd be arrested or anything like that, and he started to walk away because he didn't want to cause trouble, and then he felt God lay on his heart, because he, of all people, should know that it's not the uniform that makes the man, it's the heart. And he had worn a uniform, and he needed God, and he knew these men who were wearing uniforms needed God as well. He went to them, and he gave them gospel tracts as well, and God gave him the opportunity to begin to talk to them. And as he was talking to them, a man walked up, and he was one of the officers, and that officer walked up and said, "Hey, what are you doing?" And he was like, "Oh, I'm just passing these out. I'm giving these to the soldiers." And the officer said, "Well, what is it?" And he took it from Andrew, and he opened it, and he began to see it was a gospel tract. And then he began to talk to the officer, and it came out that that officer was a Christian man. And he told Andrew, "We need more people like you. We need more Christians, and we need more of God's word here in Poland." And Andrew knew more than anything that these people needed Christ, that these people needed the Bible and the gospel to be presented to them, because many of them didn't have and had never heard the Bible or the gospel. And that last day of the tour, he sat on a bench and he prayed and he asked God to help these people and to let them get the gospel and to help him reach them with the gospel. And that is where we're going to have to stop for this week. Bye, guys.
We gotta stop.